This is the Coach Tom Anthony Show on your home for Pitt State football.
To the near edge, and he's buried. Jordan Rogers was not fooled. Drops him back at the 11-yard line.
Highlights, insights, and what's next for Pittsburgh State.
Jalen Fuchs, far side return for Pitt State, has a sideline. Jalen Fuchs is going to go after a block punt for a safety. Pitt State special teams strikes again. Fuchs with a first career touchdown. It comes via kickoff return. It is 22-7. You got to be kidding me.
Here's the voice of the Gorillas, Eddie Lomshek.
Greetings, Pitt State football fans, and welcome to the latest installment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek along with Pitt State head football coach Tom Anthony. The Gorillas off a hard-fought, to say the least, 17-14 win over Grand Valley State, giving the Elements almost a war of attrition. The most important thing, it was the first win of the season for Pitt State, who came in 0-2. We knew this early season schedule was going to be a meat grinder, if you will, and Pitt State just unfortunately had stubbed their toe a few too many times in those first two games, but great to get into the win column, Coach, on that. Physical toughness, mental toughness, both on display Saturday.
Yeah, just proud of our guys, proud of our coaches. Just the preparation we had all week to come out and play a really, really good football team in Grand Valley. I think we played a pretty clean game, much cleaner than we had the first 2 weeks, and obviously extremely hot out there, and our guys battled for all four quarters and ended up being a pretty good football game.
Yeah, I'll say this, Grand Valley hung in there, I thought, pretty good through three quarters with the Elements coming from Upper Michigan. I talked to their coach during the week. They were walking off the practice field. He said it was 66 degrees. It warmed up throughout last week. Talk about preparation when you know it's going to be 92 or 93 at kickoff.
It's hard. If you can't get your body acclimated to it, you just continue to stress to your guys about the hydration piece and obviously the electrolytes. We've been trying to do a bunch of stuff throughout the week, but even for us practicing, we really didn't get any heavy heat until Thursday. Tuesday and Wednesday out there on the practice field, it wasn't terrible. Then it really started to heat up Thursday. We're out during our walkthrough. We got out there Friday and practiced in it a little bit. But really Saturday for our guys too, it's been pretty mild here, for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So it was kind of our first go at some heavy heat as well. So again, just proud of our guys, the way they battled through it and just kept pushing.
You end up with a couple of guys dealing with those elements, but bottom line is you cannot simulate game speed and intensity, right, in practice. So there's just no way to do it because nobody's chasing you as hard as they can like they do in practice with a scout team trying to give you those looks. You came in 0-2 as mentioned. What kind of a feel did you get from your team during the week? Any extra emphasis on this game, any more importance, or is that kind of go unsaid?
Yeah, there was no extra emphasis on the game. Probably challenged them Monday afternoon in our team meeting, more to challenge them about how they prepare, and just having a passion for their preparation, having a passion about Sunday through Friday. And that was kind of my big challenge to them this week was it's not just about the game on Saturday. If you want to execute at a high level on Saturday, if you want to play well on Saturday, your Sunday through Friday has to be elite. So that was really my challenge to them and my challenge to the coaching staff as well. My challenge for myself, was just that preparation piece. We have to prepare a lot better than we had the first 2 weeks, and we did that this past week, and we're going to have to continue to do it moving forward because a lot of really good football teams left on our schedule.
You go everywhere in town and people ask, what do you think? What's it going to take? And all those things. And the obvious thing was play well early. How good was it to get through the first quarter, not down 14-0?
Yeah, that was another part of that challenge, that preparation piece for our guys was we have to start fast, and we hadn't done that the first 2 weeks. So again, that's part of evaluating your program and evaluating yourself as well as a coach. After those first 2 weeks, it's like, all right, what can I do as the head coach? What can we do as a coaching staff to not start slow? So then we kind of looked at how we were practicing, how we kind of did a few things, and we changed a little bit of that. And we got the results we wanted this week. And again, now we're going to have to continue to evaluate and how can we even improve going into next week.
Every team at every level is obviously coach-led, but really successful teams, you hear the expression, they are player-led. When you're 0-2, talk about the culture and some of the intangibles you see maybe from your captains, veteran players, that allow them to go out and execute the way they did against a program like Grand Valley?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was, our guys were angry. Our guys weren't angry because we lost 2 games. Our guys were angry because I think they knew that we didn't perform how we should have performed. And I think that motivated them this week. And hopefully that should motivate them continuing, to move forward. So obviously was really proud of our team as a whole, just the way they responded after those first 2 weeks, proud of our leadership, proud of our older guys, proud of our young guys. I mean, I think the other really cool part I'm seeing right now is we're playing a lot of really, really young guys, especially on the defensive side of the football, and seeing those guys jump right into those roles and even take on some leadership roles, non-captains, guys that are maybe considered underclass type guys that are taking on some of that leadership responsibility is really cool to see right now.
When you go into a game like this and it's as hot as it is, you're going to need depth. And you and I were talking off air about the number of guys you were getting into late in that game on some of your special teams. So talk about that. Was this a game that you maybe made plans to rotate more than you would have if it was 58 degrees?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you necessarily make those plans. There's certain guys you always want in there. Like I don't ever want to have to take Luke Nigaman off our punt shield. Well, he started cramping, so we had to take him off of there. And I think we're very, very fortunate to have some depth at a couple spots where we can keep guys fresh. I think one of the places where we're extremely deep right now, where you didn't see a lot of that cramping or a lot of fatigue issues, is on the defensive line. I don't think we had a D lineman take more than 27 snaps on Saturday because we're so deep there. We're able to rotate those guys through. We're able to keep those guys fresh so they can play at a high level. Obviously we just had a couple guys go down with some cramps, and again, super proud of the guys that just stepped up. Karan goes down, and then we got TJ Atkins and coming in. Kai Stone came in, Jay Trav, some of those older receivers stepped up. Grayson, I thought, had his best game for us. So some of those receivers were able to step up when Karan, went down, and just again, super proud of those guys.
17-14 game. One of Grand Valley's strength is their defensive front. You just talked about how good you guys feel with your defensive line. Did you go in thinking it could be this kind of a game, or do you try not to anticipate a game being a slugfest versus a shootout?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of just go in hoping you play well. I did, if you would have asked me early in the week what I thought the final score would have been, I probably would have said it was probably going to be a lower scoring game, just because I knew that they were really, really good on defense. I kind of knew what we were capable of on defense, even though we maybe hadn't shown it the first 2 weeks. So I kind of knew going in it would probably be a big special teams and defensive battle. And like JB said, our biggest thing every week is we call it the double positive. We got to win the turnover margin and the explosive play battle. And if we're able to do that, we're going to win a lot of football games. And we did do that. We won the turnover margin 2-1 and won the explosive battle as well. So just proud of our guys again, the way we were able to go out and execute.
I think I referenced on the air at one point early fourth quarter, they had the fumble return and their touchdown, and we'll go back through the game obviously, but that feel like a playoff game to you, that kind of intensity, given how hard both teams are playing?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 weeks felt like the playoff setting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we scheduled some really good teams here on the front end of our schedule, and they've all felt like playoff games. And we're going to have another one, this Saturday that's going to feel like a playoff game as well. I mean, I'm sure Fort Hays is one of the best teams in the country right now, coming in with one loss. So it's going to have that same type of feel to it. Two really, really good football teams, well coached, and should be another really good one on Saturday.
Yeah, yep. You made the schedule. As they say, you made your bed, you lay in it, right? But I think about the years you play Friends or Southwest Assemblies of God, due respect to those programs. This is a little bit different. But fans, kind of hang in there. As I know you're not staring around the stands, obviously, during the game, but great to see your kids after the game run over and celebrate with the student section. Those kids hung in there. So we had an umpire going down during the game. Some people went through it, didn't they?
Yeah. No.
But how about our students and our band?
Our student section, our band are phenomenal. I mean, of all the places I've played, it's the best in the country. Our fans are phenomenal. I mean, it was just so special to be back home finally after 2 weeks on the road and play in front of our crowd. And I thought the crowd was amazing for us when we needed them to be, and just really, really appreciate their support, especially sitting out there for 4 hours on a super hot day. I know it can be tough sometimes.
One of the fun things is going out in Gorilla Village pregame, talk to some Grand Valley people. I know they play in front of big crowds. They have a nice stadium and play in front of big crowds, and their people so complimentary, though, to the atmosphere out there with the shade in the Gorilla Village, and really neat. And then it was even funnier watching them in the stadium pregame. They're standing just up against the wall wherever they could, just to soak up every last ounce of shade before it sets in on their section. So that's kind of neat. But how about taking advantage of playing at home now? This kicks off a stretch 4 or 5 are at home for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best advantages in the country, I think, is playing in the jungle. So it's, again, we're going to continue to need those people. We're going to continue to need their support. We're going to need them to be loud because we got a lot of big football games here, coming up, especially the one this Saturday.
All right, we'll take our first break here on this installment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Our player segment is next. Quarterback Jackson Berry will be our guest. We'll return with that right after these messages.
The Silverback Fund just helps us go above and beyond to be able to be the best in the MIAA.
You see it as a financial investment, but it's really an investment in people, which is what Pitt State's all about.
We recruit at such a high level. We are competing against a lot of Division I's now. What's going to set us apart and have us in the conversation is the financial part of it.
We couldn't have this success without individual donors, without the community support.
If you're on the fence about giving, come out to games, look at the athletes, and see what kind of experiences they're getting.
Welcome back to the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek on our player segment here with quarterback Jackson Berry. A lot to talk about with this young man. Maybe listening on this Monday on our flagship 100.7 or through the KSHQ app. Again, the video installment of the show released Wednesdays at noon through the Pitt State Athletics YouTube channel. So appreciate you being with us wherever and whenever. Jackson Berry with us, and man, a lot to talk about with you. But first and foremost, it was an 0-2 start to the season. How big was the win Saturday?
It was really big, but it was no bigger than any of the games moving forward. So we just got to get our mindset on this upcoming week.
Take me back after the loss at Central Oak. You guys, long bus ride home, get home at 2 in the morning, whatever it was. Then you have to come back in Monday, and you're kind of feeling the pressure of 0-2 because this is a program that people expect success. And so what was the conversation, and what were things like around practice leading up to Grand Valley?
It was honestly even more ramped up. Our focus was better, our intensity was better, so the only thing it really did was bring us closer together and lock us in even more.
So much to talk about with you being a one-year player out of Prosper, Texas. Ryan Medeiros, one of your high school teammates, our safety, and come here from Southern Utah. So let's start with that. Talk about leaving there, finding a new place to play, and ultimately landing in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so I was up there and spent 4 years there. It was a great time. I appreciate everything that happened to me up there, all the people I met, coaches and players, but just felt like after the season last year was in my best interest to look for other options, and Pitt State was the first team to really jump on top of me, and Ryan Medeiros played a huge part in that, and they never stopped showing genuine love towards me, so it was the perfect spot for me.
And as I understand it, I told you off air, I met your dad, and he had some family, lived in Pittsburgh at one time, right? You guys had somewhat of a connection to the community?
And we didn't even really know that until, it kind of came full circle at the end. But yes, sir, we do. My grandpa was just up here watching the game, and we went over to that farmhouse cafe. Yeah. And he was telling me that he used to come down there and eat.
Yeah, so it's small town America at its finest, right? So Saturday was your first home game.
It was.
What'd you think of it, the walk and the atmosphere and all that?
I thought it was fantastic. It was great. We start off 0-2, and you never really know how the fans are going to react to that, but they showed out. I thought they were loud, and, we were able to bring the W home for them. So.
You were here in the spring. That's always important for transfers, and yet you were limited in the spring because of a knee injury. Take me back through spring ball, maybe just getting the mental reps you did, trying to fit in, learn the offense and all that.
Obviously, the injury that took place was very unfortunate because I wasn't able to really show what I could do on the field, but I knew that it was a different way I could grow in other places, so I just took the most of it and, mental reps, building relationships with my teammates, trying to just show that even though I was hurt and couldn't be on the field, that I was still fully bought into the program.
You talk about making relationships with your teammates. What were your early impressions of the culture in place here?
Loved it. My original roommates were Jeremy Sharp and Carter Stanchfield, and those are two of the best guys on the team to kind of see the standard lived out in lifetime. So, all of my teammates, they were there for me, and they just continue to show the standard and the culture of the team. And starting off 0-2, you can kind of, you never know what's going to happen. Are we going to keep holding the standard that we talk about, or are things going to fall off? And I thought, it showed so much on who we are and what the standard really is here.
Quarterback Jackson Berry with us on our player segment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show this week. Pitt State coming off the win over Grand Valley State, their first win of the season. Back home this week with Fort Hays State. 4 of 5 at home this stretch of the schedule, which is nice. Don't have to go to Hays or Kearney this year, which is especially nice. So you get to know some guys, go through the spring a little bit. Were you here over the summer as well?
Yes, sir.
How was that?
It was great. Got the, what should I say, the number of guys here, I guess, was the best that they said it's been in a while, so that was encouraging to see. We had some setbacks and little things happening here and there, but we just kept on working through it, and I thought it was great.
As a quarterback, how important is the summer? Give people an idea of the things you're going through to start building a chemistry with the receivers.
Yeah, well, every day starts off in the weight room, and then we're in meetings, we're ROA, we're throwing on our own, we're putting in our own work, just building the chemistry and the connection any type of way we could. I thought we made the most out of every single day, even after what was mandatory was done. We were all still together, food, workouts, having fun. So I thought just that part of it was even bigger than the work that we put in.
And with that, you come in from Southern Utah, Division I school. What were your initial impressions of the talent level here,
Yeah,
maybe
that was
compared to what
fantastic.
you've been around? Did you, how much of a working knowledge would you say you had, not Pitt State particular, but even about Division II football?
I would say that my knowledge of it was limited. I knew about Pitt State from Ryan Medeiros, but it was definitely limited. And then through the recruiting process, it obviously grew a lot, but I still was, very new to it and still am. But
3 games in, talk about the progress you feel you've made from game 1 to game 3 with everything happening at game speed.
it's been good. You just had to get your feet wet again and start building the connection with everybody. When the bullets are really flying, it just happens faster. You got to be sharper. You don't get chances back again, so you have to capitalize and make the most of it. But I think the biggest thing is to just keep on growing, and by week 10, we'll be playing our best football.
You open at Ferris State, who's defending national champs, and a staple of their team is their physicality with their defensive front. You just played a really good defensive front in Grand Valley State. 2 of those first 3, so much about defensive front. So from a quarterback's perspective, talk about what you're looking at pre-snap when you see alignment, and of course they may change on the snap.
Yeah, and I don't want to skip over UCO's front 7 either, when they had a ton of great players on that front 7 as well. But, they try to switch up the looks. They try and get in a bunch of different pictures, but their identity is to let their front 7 work on you. And they're hoping by the 4th quarter, you want to throw the towel in. But I think that's the best thing about this program is that in the 4th quarter, we're just getting started. So, it was 3 great matchups, and I'm sure we'll see one of those teams again.
Each game you have a touchdown pass to Karan Parchman. Talk about him and maybe the chemistry you're building with him through this season.
Yeah, he's been great. He's a special type of leader, and he has a special fire in him whenever he steps into the football facility, and I can always appreciate that. He plays with a ton of passion and heart, so I think it makes it easy for me and him to connect because we both play the same way, and the connection is just going to keep building.
This is the last game, terribly hot for football weather, even for a Texas guy. How did you handle that physically?
It's the preparation before the game, the whole week building up, and it's nutrition, hydration, sleep, all that type of thing. Those are the 3 most important things whenever you're facing something like that. So, and then just push myself in practice like it's game every single day. Every rep's a game rep, so that when I get to the game, it's nothing out of the ordinary, and I was still pretty hot at the game. So,
Grand Valley, obviously highly ranked, very consistent program, really good program. That first win of the season, how important is it now not to be too excited about that and being able to turn your attention forward?
Yeah, it's the most important thing, I think, is not listening to any rat poison, not listening to anything that's our first win or if it's over Grand Valley. We know what we want at the end of the season. If our eyes stay on that, then we just got to stay focused with it.
To me, you go back to the culture. What do you see from this group as far as the potential to string some things together now and really build some momentum?
Well, it's nothing new. I'm thinking now that we won. We've been thinking it. We've known who we are. We faced adversity in the first 2 games with 2 tough opponents and a 3rd one as well. We came out on top, but my mindset hasn't changed at all. I know who we have. I know who we are. So,
you guys played well early, took care of the football. Some of the offensive mistakes were eliminated with some of the penalties. How big is that to do that against Grand Valley and to stay out of your own way now?
Yeah, that's how you win those top-ranked games is, who's going to win the turnover battle, who's going to win the explosive battle, the penalty battle, who's going to execute their assignment, who's going to play ahead of the sticks. Those are the things that win you those games.
Very good. Well, thanks for being here. Well done. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Keep up the good work. Jackson Berry with us on our player segment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. We owe you another break. When we come back, Coach will rejoin us right after this.
This isn't just where you go to class. It's where you chase what's possible, where grit isn't taught, it's lived. Every drop of sweat, writes the next chapter in Gorilla history.
In front of a raucous John Lance Arena have won it.
This is pride. This is your future. This is Pitt State.
The faculty of the school, there's where the students get the inspiration.
Welcome back to the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek along with Pitt State head football coach Tom Anthony. Coach, we just had Jackson Berry in here on our player segment, your quarterback. He's a one-year player for you guys. I guess first things first, when you have that situation, you know you only have him for a year, and we've talked about him being a little bit limited in spring ball. What are you seeing from him game 1 to game 3, just in terms of general progress?
Just getting more comfortable in the offense. You know, I mean, he missed all those. Think about all the reps you miss in spring ball. You know, with him being out, and he did a little bit of 7-on-7 kind of the last week of spring ball. So just seeing him getting more and more comfortable with KB and how Kev calls a game, and then getting more comfortable with all of our wide receivers as well, and just getting comfortable with kind of the flow of the game. And I think that's a huge part of it for quarterback. It's not just your talent level; it's you being comfortable as well with how the offensive play caller calls things. They're now getting comfortable on Kev knows what Jackson likes to do in certain situations, and vice versa. So I think you've just seen him improve each week, and I think through the first 3 weeks we've seen just how great of a player Jackson Berry is.
71% against Grand Valley, 24 for 34, almost 250 yards. Did not turn the ball over, and talked with him about building a chemistry with Karan Parchman. But you mentioned Grayson Holbert, coming off maybe his best game of the season, had a long catch. Receiver-wise, you don't have a 6'6" hybrid like we had with Garrison for a couple 3 years, so. Talk about that group as a whole and maybe the balance you have there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of transfers and a lot of new guys stepping up too. Obviously, you have Grayson, who's been here for quite some time, but then you have some of these kind of newer transfer guys coming in. TJ Atkins, I think, had kind of a breakout game for us. He was a little limited at the beginning of the season, a little banged up. Jalen Travis is getting more comfortable as well. Kai Stone was another transfer that came in this summer, had a really big catch that got overturned. They're early in the game, but Kai's getting more and more comfortable each day in the offense. Then obviously we got, Grayson and Karan and, Cam Gillespie and, Orlandis Mitchell, a couple older guys. So I think it's a very balanced group. And I think Jackson's just getting more comfortable with each of those guys every week.
11 different players had at least one reception for Pitt State in this game. 24 completions, 11 different players. That is spreading the wealth indeed. With Jackson being a transfer, what do you recall about when you guys went into the portal looking for a quarterback and coming across him knowing he had this connection to Ryan Medeiros through their high school? Yeah,
I think the number one thing is when we knew we wanted to take one more transfer, and we wanted it to be a guy who had some playing experience, which is kind of a big wish list when you go into the portal. Everybody wants a quarterback with experience, but Jackson was a starter out there. Started 10 games, was a team captain for them. So I knew we were getting a kid with experience that was a good leader. And then on top of that, I kind of already knew who Jackson was, just because recruiting Ryan out of high school. I knew that Jackson was their quarterback and that he was a really good player. I'd seen him practice a few times in high school when I went down to watch Ryan. So I knew the type of player he was, the type of kid he was, and then obviously, the endorsement from Ryan, with Jackson as a person. And kind of knew right away the first phone call I had with him that he was going to be a guy for us. Just his energy and his passion, for football kind of sold me.
Yeah, talking to him a little bit, not just on the show here, but you can sense the appreciation for the program, the commitment to the program, the expectations, the community support, all of that. When you're looking at transfers in general, you have to be careful, obviously. There's so many guys in the portal. Talk about the research that goes into it to making sure he's going to fit your culture.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing I always tell our coaches, our coaching staff with transfers is I want a previous relationship somehow, right? So we had that with Jackson, him being from Prosper High School. We knew who he was. Good friends with Ryan. TJ Atkins, the receiver, played for Kevin at SFA. Mm-hmm. Kai Stone, his junior college, Coach Rican was down there with him.
Okay.
Jalen Travis came from Incarnate Word, where George Sanders is coaching, who was with us for a few years. So for me, the biggest piece when we're looking at transfers is I want a previous relationship somehow, some way, where we know kind of what type of a kid we're getting. It's easy to turn on the film and see see if you're getting a good football player or not. But for me, it's why are they transferring, and I want somewhat of a previous relationship where we kind of know what we're getting.
One of the keys in this win over Grand Valley was certainly the protection of the quarterback versus their quarterback feeling a lot of heat from our front four, and we'll get to that. But Jackson Berry took one sack in this game, but through 3 games, Talk about his athletic ability, his ability with his legs to extend plays and avoid some of those sacks.
That's a huge part of it. I mean, a lot of the times that you're not seeing sacks, yes, there's a lot of great protection we've had from our offensive line, but there's also some times where JB's just been able to extend plays and maybe make a guy miss in the backfield and get himself out of a sack, which is a huge part of not taking a lot of sacks. If you don't have an athletic quarterback back there that has a good feel for the pocket, you're probably going to take a lot of sacks, whether or not your protection's good or not. So on top of us having, I think, a really good offensive line right now that's doing a great job protecting our quarterback, then we also have a quarterback who has the ability to get out of some stuff when maybe something does break down back there.
Well, let's go through this game. We'll start in the first half. Of course, Pitt State had the ball to begin the game, and at your own 25, they kick off with the wind, and you guys, unfortunately, man, you miss a shot to get on top early with a drop ball, and it's easy to focus on that. But talk about the work of the receiver to get open and where JB put that ball.
I mean, great route, great play call by KB, great route by Orlandis, great ball by JB, and I mean, we just got to, we got to finish those plays. And we weren't able to do it right there.
You still end up though early field position. You were on the other end of this at Ferris and at Central Oak. Grand Valley starts at their own 10, their own 9, their own 25. So talk about that defensive field position for against them early.
Yeah, it was a great job by our offense of moving the ball down there to start the game and put us in that position to control the field as well. And then our defense did a great job of then not giving those yards back. And then Tyler Antle did a phenomenal job. Our first 2 punts, we pooch punted it, and he pinned them deep on both those. So a great job by him of executing. When you are in that plus territory, you can't just cut one loose on punt and kick it through the back of the end zone and give him the, you want to try to pin him in there tight, and Tyler was able to do that a couple times. So it was kind of a team effort, to kind of control that field position battle there early at the game.
Yeah, it's not always about how many yards the punt is, but it's about where it ends, and great job with those placements. And so Pitt State and Grand Valley in a back and forth scoreless, and then you get the ball at your own 9, 2:12 to go in the first quarter, put together an 11-play possession. Watching your kickers in pregame going to the north with that wind at their back, there's no question 55, 60-yard range. Austin Schmidt, 2 for 4 in the first 2 games. Talk about staying with him as your place kicker and him coming through on that 53-yard.
Yeah, I mean, I sent him a nice long text message, after the UCO game, because I knew he was pretty beat up, and just told him, man, my confidence in him it will never waver. I truly do think he's one of the best place kickers in the country. He proved that in 2023. Was a little banged up last year with a hip flexor issue, so was kind of on and off. But I mean, he won us the Ferris State game, in 2024, he was 4 or 5 and named the D2 special team. So his ability to kick field goal for us is there, and we're going to continue to lean on him, and he's going to continue to be a huge part of our success moving forward because he's a phenomenal kid, doesn't ever bat an eye, and has a phenomenal leg on top of it.
Junior out of Grand Valley, Missouri, line drive kick. You hold your breath a little bit because sometimes kicking it that far, but boy, he just drilled that thing. And Pitt State scored first in this game. With that, you also have a new long snapper and new holder this year. How do you feel with where that whole sequence is?
They've been doing a great job. I mean, those guys work at it. I mean, Austin O'Hara, he's kind of one of those kids that just kind of waited his turn, waited his time, and put in so much work, this spring and this summer to have the chance to be our long snapper. And he's done a great job for us on both kicks and on punts, doing a phenomenal job. And then Tyler has really committed himself, to that holding piece as well, on top of being our punter. So being able to have those 2 guys operating at a high level for us has been really good right now.
You guys are up 3-0 with that kick by Austin. That came at 12:06 of the second quarter. You flip it around. Now you're kicking off the wind, the touchback there at their own 25. They end up punting, but there was a defensive chop block called on this possession. Talk about that for our listeners as far as that interpretation.
Yeah, so I think a couple of years ago they banned you're not allowed, an offensive player is not allowed to cut, out really outside of the tackle box, and vice versa. Defensive players are not allowed to cut offensive players outside of the tackle box. So I think what you used to see back in the day was a big old lineman would pull around, you'd get a small cornerback kind of setting the edge out there that kind of dive down and kind of go through their knees and make a pile. Well, that's not legal anymore. And really, it wasn't intentional. Jalen Fuchs was coming up to make a tackle, and he actually just missed the tackle and then went into the offensive. When he missed it, he went into the offensive lineman's legs and ended up cutting the offensive lineman when he missed the tackle and ended up getting called. But it was the right call because you're not allowed to do that anymore.
So the defense would stiffen. Grand Valley would punt it away. Pitt State was pinned at their own 6, and then they end up punting. 20-plus return, thankfully nullified on a block in the back. Grand Valley was backed up, and so, man, you are in this tussle in a 3-0 game. leaning on your defense. But talk about in a game like that, the conversation among the defense, knowing that they just have to keep going the way they are.
Yeah, I think, you bring them back to the sideline after each possession, you get their thoughts, and you just try to keep their confidence up. That's always what we tell our guys. You got to stay hot. It's kind of what we always tell them, and they were playing really, really well, and just kind of let them know that there couldn't be any let up. That's the beautiful part, I think, about our team. Like, our guys knew going into that game, for the most part, it was going to be a defensive battle. We knew Grand Valley was really, really good on defense. We knew on our side of the ball on defense, we were going to have to play a really, really good game. We knew we were going to have to get our offense a couple extra possessions with some takeaways, which we were able to do that. So I think, again, overall, I thought it was a great team win, a great execution for the most part in all three phases. And to beat really, really good football teams, which Grand Valley is, you have to do that.
Grand Valley had their best starting field position at their own 35 still, even after a block in the back on the return. Second play, you get a pick by Spencer Ward. I made a note here, pressure from James Smith, just shoving one of their blockers into their redshirt freshman quarterback. But how about that play by your defense?
Yeah, great job by James of putting, anytime you put pressure on a quarterback, you're going to force some bad balls. And then Spencer made a heck of a play. Really, the wideout was open. And Spence just kind of drop-stepped, gained a little ground back into zone coverage there. And, boy, he got up pretty high. When you watch it on film, he's up there. Went up and grabbed it. And what a great play by him.
Younger brother of Stephen Ward, your starting linebacker who came from Missouri State. They're both out of Nixa. Spencer, a redshirt freshman, and obviously in the mix for playing time for you right now. Talk about where he is in the process.
Yeah, he's been great. He's probably taken, he's been taking 15 to 25 snaps probably a game on defense, and then starting on 3 of our 4 special teams for us. So a huge contributor. Obviously that's, I think, another position on top of D-line where we have a ton of depth right now, which has been awesome at that safety position. When you talk about J-Rod and Ryan and Reggie and Spencer, Jasper Ogburn, Mario Mangini, we have a lot of guys there right now which allow us to keep those guys fresh throughout the game. And Spencer's really stepped up and had some really good games for us here to start the season.
Well, this was the first sequence of real complimentary football. Defense gets a takeaway. Gorillas start almost at midfield, an 8-play scoring drive. So I guess at the risk of overstating the obvious, talk about capitalizing on that field position and the takeaway.
Definitely. That's when you can take the football away, you want to get points off of it, and we were able to do that. And that's a huge dagger and a huge momentum change. When you're in such a tight game, when your defense is able to make a really great play and get the ball back, and then your offense is able to go down and capitalize and get points off of it, it really flips the momentum into your favor. So again, great execution again by both sides of the ball.
One thing as a defensive coach you hold your breath against is a screen against a blitz, and you get down there and they bring pressure and from the 17-yard line. How about the execution on that wide receiver screen?
Yeah, great job by JB at just getting the ball up and over. That's probably my biggest fear when you're running a lot of those tunnel screens kind of back through the middle. Is getting that ball up high enough where they can't get hands on it. And then again, our offensive line did a great job of selling the pass and getting that D-line to rush upfield. And, man, there weren't a lot of guys out there that even had a shot to – Kieran kind of walked in on that one.
Yeah, we were debating in the booth who all could have scored on that, and do we still have enough to get that 17 yards before they recover. But great play. Gorillas are up 10-0. Grand Valley will get it back one more time, 3 and out. Minute 15 to play, 3 and out by the Gorillas. And so Pitt State would take it to halftime. Up 10-0. Talk about halftime. I got to imagine the first however many minutes of it was spent on hydration, right?
Yes. Yeah, you try to get them in there as fast as possible, get them in the air conditioning, get them drinking, get them some snacks, get them some food back in their body. Then again, just about making adjustments, obviously offensively we wanted to change a couple things. Defensively, there was some stuff we needed to look at changing as well. Made a couple adjustments on some special team stuff. And that's what halftime's about. It's just about making adjustments. Where can you put your guys in a better position in the second half to continue, to hopefully have some success?
Gorillas 10-0 at the break, and it felt every inch of playoff game. And so Pitt State had to try and finish second half, and they would have to come from behind to do it. We'll take our next break, come back, and go through the second half, and eventually look forward to Family Day with Fort Hays State in town. Back with more of the Coach Tom Anthony Show right after this.
Pittsburgh State University Alumni and Constituent Relations, engaging Gorilla alumni and friends through Gorilla gatherings, family events, programming, and a variety of benefits and services. Ride with Gorilla Pride in Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Personalization available in Kansas and Missouri. Honoring our Gorilla greats and their achievements with alumni awards. Find an alumni event near you or learn more about us at pittstate.edu/alumni.
Welcome back to the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek and Pitt State head football coach Tom Anthony going through a 17-14 win over Grand Valley State this past Saturday in the home opener. Fort Hays State in town. The Gorillas, again, playing 4 or 5 at home right now. But we'll go back through the second half of Grand Valley. So you told Sam Reeves, our sideline reporter at halftime, you talked about playing with great eye discipline. But discipline in general, you had about 4 first downs. They were offsides. You told me some of those you weren't necessarily even going to do anything. You're just kind of seeing. So talk about your line sitting in there and just some of those things that at the end of the day, that all added up.
Yeah, I mean, just proud of them for executing that. But if we don't have a play called, they shouldn't jump. So
yeah.
But again, proud of them for just executing the situation. That's not something we necessarily work on all the time. It was kind of something we huddle up on the sideline, and I just kind of talked to KB about what I wanted to do there. And a lot of look tempo, hard counts, get your eyes back. We might choose to run a play, we might not. And they did a great job of just executing what we were asking them to do right there.
You guys are 0-3 in coin tosses, by the way, so we'll get that rectified hopefully sooner than later.
But yeah, we need to send out somebody else.
Grand Valley with the ball to begin the second half, and you gave them the win in the third quarter. It died down a little bit through this game. It wasn't as big a factor in the fourth quarter. But when you're winning 10-0, you have a shutout at halftime. Do you say anything extra about the emphasis on that opening series?
Yeah, I mean, whether you're down, whether you're up, whether you're tied, I mean, you always want to start fast. To start the game and to start the second half, you want to set the tone. I think at that point, we did have a lot of momentum in our favor. We had a good second quarter where we outscored them 10-0, got a 3-and-out, there to finish the half defensively. So we had all the momentum in our favor. So my big challenge then, to the kickoff team and to our defense was to keep that momentum, start fast, start with a 3-and-out or a takeaway defensively and get the ball back to our offense so we can keep that momentum in our favor. That's always kind of my big stressor when we're in the locker room at halftime.
Grand Valley had 1 first down. They would eventually punt it away 64 yards with the wind at their back. It was into the end zone for a touchback, so the Gorillas, beginning at their own 20, had a holding penalty that kind of derailed the drive and would have to punt it back for them. Grand Valley at their own 30 comes out, and they get into Gorilla territory. They have pretty good range with the wind at their back. What'd you see on the blocked field goal?
Osahan. I mean, I think that's his third block of the season. He's blocked 2 field goals and an extra point, and it's just an effort play. I mean, that's all field goal block is. That's what we preach to our guys. I mean, it's purely about effort. It's about keeping points off the board. And I think we've been in some situations where we've been able to show our guys just how important those plays are, whether you're on the field goal team or on the field goal block team, whether it's 1 point on an extra point or 3 points on a field goal. I mean, those things matter and can add up at the end of a game. You look at Ferris State, Osahan blocked an extra point early in the game, and now we're sitting there at the end of the game, down by 10 with Schmitty having an opportunity to kick a field goal to go down by 7 with 8 minutes left in the game. Those points, whether it's an extra point or whether it's that field goal, man, those are huge and can be huge momentum changers because that's a chance for them to go down by a score right there if they make that field goal, and for us to keep that 10-0 lead and get the ball back was huge.
Yeah, those extra points, because think about how many times you see a team have an extra point blocked or missed. They end up chasing it the rest of the game. Then they might go for 2 and you don't get it. Well, there's 2 points you left off the board, so you don't ever know when that's going to come back. Towards the end of the game, you kicked a field goal to go up 6, ended up taking it off the board because they had a defensive penalty there for a pull and shoot technique, a defensive lineman pulling down one of your offensive linemen, maybe to open a gap. So Osahan gets these blocks. Talk about how much time you spend making sure those interior D linemen know the rules about the long snapper's protected and not grabbing a blocker.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part. We spend a lot of time on that during fall camp when we do our initial field goal block installation. And then every Friday, Coach Everett does this field goal block presentation for the week and re-hits all those rules, right? Stay on sides, don't touch the long snapper, you can't jump and land on the, so we reiterate that to our guys every single week when we install our field goal block for the week.
Special teams plays, always momentum plays. Gorillas get it back and would almost capitalize on the momentum starting at their own 31. You flip the field in a hurry. Long pass from Jackson Berry to Grayson Holbert. Again, well, how about that deep ball?
Yeah, it was a great job by JB. Great job by Grayson recognizing man coverage. He kind of won there in the slot on the slot fade. And then JB threw a great ball and Grayson made a great catch, and we were able to keep the momentum going.
Grayson Holbert was a quarterback at Blue Valley High School in Overland Park. He did not have an initial redshirt year, played as a true freshman, injury redshirt last year. So when you talk about a position change from high school to college, Talk about his progress.
Yeah, I mean, and he changed a few times in high school. You know, he played defensive back early on in high school, and then they moved him to quarterback his senior year because they just didn't really have one. So he's just an athlete.
Yeah.
You know, so we knew that going in. We knew he was going to be able to help us in a lot of different places. And so for him, really learning that wide receiver position, having never played it before, he's really only been playing wide receiver now for a couple years. So he's another one of those guys that just continues to get better each and every year. Gets more comfortable in playing the position, continues to improve his hands, and again, he's made a couple big catches for us here early in the season, and fully expect him to continue to make some big plays for us as we move forward.
You guys drive the ball down, you get in a goal-to-go situation, and this is when the scoop and score happened for Grand Valley, 95-yard return. What'd you see on the fumble?
Yeah, I mean, their guy just put his helmet on the ball and did a great job. You know, Luke's obviously got to be better with his ball security, but that's still going to be a huge part of what we do offensively. We were ready to trot Luke right back out there later in the game. Yep. You know, in those situations, we're never going to shy away from that. And just kind of one of those plays where they did a great job of popping the ball out and then scooping it up.
So right back in the game, completely changes the psyche of that game. It's 93 degrees. They're a long way from home. They're on the verge of going down 17-0 with, you know, mid-third quarter, and you're thinking at that point, man, this could be almost an insurmountable deficit for them. But it changed the psyche of the game. You guys get the ball back. You get one first down, punted away, and here they come on their offensive touchdown, their lone offensive points of the game. On this drive, they threw it almost every play. Talk about defending a team that just uses the pass as an extension of the running game.
Yeah, for sure. I think at that point they'd realized they weren't getting a lot out of their run game, and just kind of shifted there. You know, that's probably one of their halftime adjustments. Probably went in there and said, "All right, guys, let's start kind of finding ways to throw the ball a little more." And they did a great job. They started RPOing a little bit, caught us in some zone coverage, and then again, now we got to make an adjustment. You know, we got to start doing some different stuff as well. So credit to them and their coaching staff. You know, that again, that could have been a huge dagger for us. You know, the defensive score, then we punt it, then they go down and score again. So that's a huge momentum shift at that point. And just again, proud of our guys the way they kept battling.
Yeah, playing at home or not, now all of a sudden you're trailing. And it's still early in the fourth quarter, but it's 14-10 with 14 unanswered by them. But this is the mark of certain teams, right? You have to answer. And your offense, again, they'd scored 10 points to this point in the game, so it's not like you were lighting up the scoreboard necessarily. But just did you hear anything on the sidelines from your offense about having to regain that momentum?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they come off after and I always try to go over there a little bit, you know, and I went over there, I was like, guys, man, like you guys are controlling the clock. You're moving the football. You guys are getting yards. It was a freakish play what happened with Luke. Like, don't let that faze you. Don't let that deter you. Go right back out there. Keep chopping wood. Keep moving the football. And we're going to go, you know, we're going to need you to go score a touchdown. You know, and I kind of challenged them with that, and they responded.
Boy, they did. It was a beautiful drive. Grand Valley's drive was aided by a Pitt State pass interference. Pitt State scoring drive was aided by a roughing the passer. Those are 15-yard penalties, and so they did add up at the end of the game. But the Gorillas, 9-play touchdown drive, 4 first downs along the way. It was a 4-minute drive. ZPG, Zamari, gets in the end zone for you, 5-yard run, and boy, he exploded through there. He has that low center of gravity. Talk about him, maybe his skill set as a running back.
Yeah, he's another one of these transfer guys, and I talked about a bunch of our transfer wide receivers. I mean, he's another one of these transfer guys that has come in and just keeps getting more and more comfortable with the offense, learning it more and more each week. And boy, I think him and Cleo here, as we keep moving forward, are going to be a pretty dynamic 1-2 punch, because he does have a different skill set than Cleo, a little lower to the ground, got a little more burst. You know, Cleo's kind of the bigger back. Both of them have great hands. You know, can catch the ball in the backfield, and both of them, again, I love that kind of 1-2 combo we have going right now with those guys.
I talked earlier about 11 players getting receptions. Your backs were among those, and it seems like a lot of those, maybe they're in there on protection, they leak out, a little check down over the middle, because 5 or 6 yard gain, better than nothing. Talk about your running backs and everything they have to process when it comes to pass pro and when they're allowed to release.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they got to be able to identify backers coming, you know, where they're sending the front, twists, all that stuff. They got to scan a lot of times in protection. So I think all 4 of those guys that have been playing a lot for us are doing a great job. And then the beautiful part is I think all those guys have the ability to hurt you with their hands too out of the backfield. They all catch the ball very, very well. So again, that's a very deep group right now, you know, thankfully and fortunately for us, and we're going to continue to lean on that.
So the Gorillas, with 9.5 minutes to go back on top, 17-10 with the extra point from Schmidt. Grand Valley gets the ball back. They punt it away. Gorillas get it back, and you're pinned at your own 17 or 27. So back-to-back punts, and now you get down to kind of the nitty-gritty where it might only be one possession each way. Grand Valley begins at their own 38. Third play, interception by Reggie King, maybe a little behind the receiver, I guess, but defense has to step up. You can't give the momentum back to them. And talk about that takeaway by Reggie.
Yeah, well, he should have caught the one a couple plays before that went. I told him that this morning when I saw him. You should have caught the one a couple plays before that went right through your hands. Then the one you actually caught was kind of like a Merry Christmas. It just kind of bounced up into his stomach. But great play by him. And again, Reggie King's a guy that's been a huge part of what we've been doing this year, and a guy that would have been a huge part of what we did last year had he not broke his wrist and missed most of the season on the back end. But Reggie has a great skill set. He's a great leader for us, one of our hardest workers, and is again going to be a huge part of what we do moving forward. And did a great job, capitalizing on that play.
Yeah, you could see his athletic ability on that return when he looked to get to the sideline and get vertical, and you see that burst. We talked about him last week with that ranginess, but also that burst, and so really talented guy. So you get the ball back at the Grand Valley 39, 5:04 to play. That's not a real long field. I know you're obviously wanting to milk the clock, and they end up with being offsides one time, defensive holding on the field goal. But how about your offense taking the final 5 minutes off the clock?
Incredible. And I told, KB and I clicked over to the offense. He said, "What do you want to do here?" I said, "Man, don't be conservative. I mean, keep pressing, try to go score, try to put points on the board, be smart." And so I think there weren't really any restrictions on them. Obviously as you move forward and that clock starts to get down to about 2 minutes now we're talking about, they had to burn a couple of their timeouts. Right. Once they were out of timeouts, now your kind of mindset changes a little bit. But again, we were kind of in a mode there. We were getting ready, and when we did send Austin out, I was getting ready to send Austin out, before they jumped off sides on that fourth down, to kick the field goal, and then they jumped. So we got 3 more plays. Then we send Austin out there to kick the field goal to go up 6 points and kick the ball back to them with a minute left or a little under a minute left and no timeouts for them. Ready to send our defense back out there, and then we obviously got the defensive holding call there and the automatic first down and took a knee.
Able to kneel it out and win the game. It's a lot of things are going through your head, right, about the field goal. I mean, you've got to have all the confidence in protection and all that stuff, and you do the math. Grand Valley had to burn their timeouts before the 2-minute timeout, and you both took a timeout in the third quarter for either play clock or personnel. How much that drive a coach nuts, have to burn one in the third quarter?
It does, and try to stay calm. There was just kind of a substitution thing offensively, and just got the play call in a little late, so we just burned one right there. Didn't want to lose the 5 yards, but in a close game like that, you definitely want to hold on to your timeouts. I think you're maybe a little more apt to potentially burn one early now that we do have that 2 minute, that extra timeout, at the 2 minute clock in the fourth quarter and in the second quarter. So, you technically have 4 timeouts, instead of 3. So you're a little more apt to maybe burn one there if you need to. But ideally you want to hold on to all those as long as you can, especially in the second half.
There may or may not have been a 43-second play clock on one play for the Gorillas, but it's it's all part of the human element in the game, right? For Pitt State, 17-14, Gorillas win it. Just an absolute hard-fought must-win almost for Pitt State. Obviously, starting 0-2. Coach, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your D-line. You had 3 sacks, 8 quarterback pressures, which are not an official stat in college football, but you said earlier nobody had to play that many plays. And it wasn't just one guy. Front 4, man, where do you start in the day they had?
Yeah, just testament to Coach Everett, and just his ability to recruit that room. That's a huge part of it, man. You got to recruit really good football players, and then you got to develop them, which he's done as well. And then you got to retain them in this day and age. You can't have guys leaving. And he's done a phenomenal job. I think we've done a great job of recruiting defensive linemen here over the last 3 to 4 years, which has helped build the depth of that room. Obviously there was tons of questions last year losing a guy like Cole Sample and Malik Berry, and man, those young guys have just stepped up. And for me, it's so fun to look out there at times over the last few weeks when you cut that film on and come in and watch it the next day. You look out there and there's 3 or 4 or 5 freshmen or redshirt freshmen or redshirt sophomores playing for you in your front 7. That makes you pretty excited as a coach, knowing that you have that kind of talent, in your program right now, and you're going to have it for a couple years, hopefully.
How about the development and progression of Sam Holtz?
Yeah, Sam's a guy we brought in as a defensive end. Sam's one of those guys that never redshirted. Right. Sam's a true junior this year, came in and had a very unique skill set, as a true freshman a few years ago in 2023, and then committed himself to the weight room, put on a lot of weight, and now we've been able to move him, kind of from outside to more inside. And he's the closest thing, I always tell people this, in my 5 years, he's the closest thing I've seen to Caden Roy that just has that unstoppable elite motor. And Sam just goes, man, and he has that Caden Roy type motor. He plays with just his hair on fire and plays with a passion that is, it's just unrelenting. And that's what makes Sam such a special player.
56 rush yards allowed. You play Grand Valley. They want to be balanced. And you talked earlier about, they had to throw the ball a little more pick and pop stuff, if you will, on their scoring drive. But how about that, man? 25 rush attempts for them for 56 yards.
Yeah, just again, testament to our D-line and our front seven. Those guys were resetting the line of scrimmage all night long. Executed what we needed them to do at a high level. Backers were fitting really well on the second level. So, again, just very pleased to see those guys, execute at a high level. And then, I told our guys, man, you execute at a high level, success comes with that. So, super proud of those guys.
This was a game going in. If you were going to win it, you knew you had to earn it. Grand Valley, great program. I think the stat was they'd won at least 10 games, 18 of the last 23 seasons. Gorillas absolutely earned it. Tremendous mental and physical toughness on a hot and steamy day, 17-14 to get that first win of the season. Conference play from this point going forward. It'll start this Saturday with Fort Hays State, Family Day, always very festive here at Pitt State. So we'll take our last break, come back and talk about that with Coach Anthony right after this.
Pittsburgh State University welcomes you to visit the PSU Veterans Memorial Amphitheater. Located on the PSU campus, the Veterans Memorial Amphitheater is designed as a park that enables visitors to honor those who've served this country through military service. Visitors can experience a special sense of place as they pay tribute to veterans, attend educational programs, and participate in special events at the memorial. The memorial is free and open to the public every day of the year.
Welcome back to one final segment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek and Tom Anthony with you. 5 games in the MIAA this coming Saturday, all conference games for a change. So good, everybody's playing on a Saturday and get the conference play. MIAA, of course, for a couple of years now. Week 0, that legislation, and so you're seeing some non-conference games mixed in, but we'll go forward with the conference play and some bye weeks mixed in. Pitt State will have theirs last week of October. But Coach, Family Day, Fort Hays State, Family Day, always a good crowd. Pittsburgh's a college town, so I know you will have some players. This might be the only game some of their family comes into town. So talk about handling the festivities, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I try to treat it as normal as possible, just another home game. Try to keep our schedules as consistent as possible throughout the week, so nothing's really changing too much for the players. And I think we're pretty lucky and fortunate. I mean, I think we got a lot of players that have pretty tight-knit families. Most of our players' families make it to about every game anyway. So, but it's great to have, everyone else maybe not affiliated with the football program that might not get to come experience Pitt State football other than once a year when they come for family weekend. I think that's what makes family weekend so special is you get all those people here who maybe aren't entrenched into guerrilla football that now get to experience the jungle on game day, the guerrilla walk and all that stuff. And I think that's what makes, Family Day pretty cool.
They dropped off their kids a month ago at college, and now they're coming back to see what kind of a mess they are and take in a little guerrilla football. So that's a good time. Fort Hays State, this is a team, man, you talk about good strength of schedule. They have it. They went out to Pueblo and won a hard-fought game. They've also played Angelo State, who's a top 10 team and kind of the kingpin and the Lone Star right now. And then they're coming off a 23-6 win over Kearney, 26-7, over Nebraska Kearney. That's a big rivalry game for them. So Chris Brown is one of the decorated players in Pitt State history, the head coach at Hays. He's been out there for over a decade, but his teams in general, not specific to this team, but talk about the toughness it takes to beat Fort Hays State.
Yeah, I mean, they're always going to play tough. I mean, that's just kind of Brownie's mentality, and Chris does a great job. Always very, very sound on defense, physical up front on both sides of the ball. They don't make a ton of mistakes. Then, for me, looking at this Fort Hays team, coming into the year, not knowing what everyone else had, no doubt in my mind coming into the season, they probably got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the region. The Heavner kid is a phenomenal player. Was a sophomore last year, just a junior this year, does a great job of kind of managing their offense, super athletic, very similar, I think, to JB. I mean, he can keep plays alive. You see a lot of times, maybe if a pass protection breaks down, Caleb's able to extend the play, keep it going. He's been their leading rusher in a couple of their games. I think he's their second leading rusher right now overall in the season. So again, they're going to be a tough opponent. They play great defense. They're explosive on offense and do a great job of taking care of the football.
They didn't have big numbers against Kearney, but balance, run pass, almost 50-50 balance. They had 3 takeaways, no turnovers. So you talk about that game management. When you prepare for a veteran quarterback as opposed to inexperience, you talk about trying to be consistent. You want to have an identity and do what you guys do, but what goes through your head from a defensive perspective when you're playing a guy you know has seen a lot of things thrown at him?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be consistent, because he's going to be able to beat you. If there's any type of a lapse or a breakdown in your defense, he's going to find it. He's going to expose it. And again, it's even more challenging when you're facing a quarterback who can beat you with his arm and his legs, which Caleb can. Again, I think he's just the more I watch him on film, just the more I see just a phenomenal football player that's very smart, makes good decisions with the football, and has the ability to really hurt you with his legs if you let him.
Fort Hays State defensively, think about, and Chris Brown played on that side of the ball. He was D coordinator at Washburn for a lot of years before he took the Hays job. So again, you want balance, obviously, but how important is it to be able to run the ball with at least moderate success here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be able to run the football just in any game, and I think that's where Fort Hays they really do a great job. I mean, they're very physical up front, and I guess now kind of being around the league for 5 years, I think Brownie and their staff do such a good job of they might not run the exact same scheme every year. They're going to see what they have defensively, and they're going to find something that fits the personnel that they have. They are very, very good right now. Just watching them the last couple of days on the defensive front, and you see that. I mean, they're going to line up, and they're going to dent the line of scrimmage, and they're going to force you to have to block perfect, and they're going to force you to have to make some plays and make a couple guys miss in space because they execute their scheme at a very high level.
Fort Hays State and Pittsburgh State. It'll be a hard-fought game and another one. If you're going to win it, you will absolutely have to earn it. Family weekend game for Pittsburgh State. Another 4 o'clock kickoff Saturday from the Jungle. Our coverage on 100.7 and the KSHQ app will begin with Mike Snow and Gorilla Game Day at 2 o'clock. Network pregame coverage will come your way at 3. That'll do it for us on this installment of the show. Big thanks to Coach Anthony and to our player guest, Jackson Berry. I'm Eddie Lomshek. Thanks for being with us, and go Gorillas.